morning. As he said, my name is Emily Freeman. I'm a developer advocate for Kickbox. Our API is very simple and just confirms that users are real people when they sign up for your service. I am thrilled to be here with you all at DevOps Days Charlotte and to kick things off. Can we just have a round of applause for the organizers? It takes an extraordinary amount of work. I want to talk to you a little bit about what Dr. Seuss can teach us about code. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and she is a magnificent tiny human. She loves Dr. Seuss. As I was reading Cat in the Hat for the 214th time, I realized Dr. Seuss has it all figured out. His words are odd, his cadence confusing, but there's a gem hidden in all of his children's rhymes. You see, I think Dr. Seuss would have made an excellent engineer. Because great code is about choosing that perfect method name or building out 95% test coverage. All that is great, but it doesn't make great code. You do. It likely never feels that way, or rarely does. There's a rhythm to software development, and I think it goes something like this. Easy, I've got this, no problem. Maybe not. It's a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. Help. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. My pair can't read my code. There are no comments. The rubber duck isn't working. I need a walk. How did I not think of that? Or my personal favorite, I've been in the wrong file all this time. And finally, I am a god of all things machine. This process is okay if you're comfortable having a mild psychotic break every sprint. I'm not. I think we're going about it all wrong, putting ourselves, our egos, above our code. And no judgment, I do it too. We're human, that's okay. But I think we can bypass this process and the ups and downs our egos produce. This pattern isn't limited to coding new features or spinning up new machines. It pops up in unexpected ways. Who's heard of imposter syndrome? A lot of you are good. If you haven't, it's a concept describing high-achieving individuals, like everyone in this room, who struggle to internalize their accomplishments and experience a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. It looks something like this. You see, we assume that everyone around us is that 10x engineer. Well, not everyone. We've seen some of our colleagues code. But it's easy to look around and see that guy who's pumping out feature after feature, or that woman who contributes to endless open source projects. It's easy to think that you're not good enough, don't work hard enough. But in reality, it's a lot more like this. Your colleagues are smarter than you at some things, and you know things they don't know. That's why you make a good team. If you think I don't feel like a fraud standing up here in front of you all, you're wrong. I think any thoughtful, intelligent person deals with self-doubt. Some of us deal with it a lot. About a year ago, I did something really stupid. I volunteered to demonstrate a mock technical interview in front of 100 students. A room just like this. I'm an idiot, essentially. My motivation was pure. Students at Turing, the code school where I learned Ruby, are terrified of technical interviews because they're scary, right? Even the senior engineers in this audience quibble a little bit on their walk to the whiteboard. But junior engineers, well, they seem to think seniors code like Neo. So my good friend and mentor, Ian Douglas, and I hatched a plan. We thought we'd show them exactly what to expect. Ian would throw some really tough questions my way, and I would show the students how to handle those questions that you're not quite sure of the answer. I don't normally quote Mike Tyson, but he has one great saying. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Ian asked his first question, and I froze. I looked around the room, and I saw 100 faces staring at me, expecting me to know the answer. And I realized in that moment that if I didn't deliver, 100 people would walk out of that room thinking I was a moron. Which left me looking a little bit like this sad pug, who is the cutest damn pug I've ever seen. The entire experience was pee your pants scary, but I muscled through as best I could. And like every technical interview I've ever had, I left feeling a bit down. The quiet but persistent whisper of doubt left me wondering again if I was really cut out for engineering. This feeling was reinforced when I found out a student had expressed his dissatisfaction in my performance to Ian. The student felt that if it had been a real interview, I should not be offered the job. Can you believe that? I'm gonna be honest, I cried. More, I sat in a bath with wine and sobbed. Because it fed into all the doubts I experienced in my first 2 years after Turing. When I graduated, I had extraordinary success with the job search. I was offered 4 jobs, which left me feeling incredibly lucky and wondering if I had oversold my skills somewhere. But my first job after school wasn't easy. I struggled. I had a hard time finding my voice, and I worried constantly that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't growing fast enough. I worried I had beginner's luck, that I wouldn't be able to find another job, certainly not one that I loved. Imposter syndrome isn't limited to me or you or this industry. It's a human problem. There's something called negativity bias, and it's played a crucial role in keeping humans alive throughout our evolution. Basically, when we hear a noise in the dark, our brains assume that it's a lion about to pounce and eat us, when really it's just a mouse scurrying through the grass. Negativity bias is awesome if predators are an everyday threat, but we don't have to worry about being eaten much these days. Instead, negativity bias simply adds stress and anxiety to our lives, certainly to mine. Who's had a great day only to go home and wonder, am I dying? What disaster is waiting around the corner? As if we can only have so much good in our lives before it's balanced out by something terrible. Like many of you, my heroes are the extraordinary people in history who stood up against a fearsome power and overtook it. The little guy going toe-to-toe with the giant, and against all odds, winning. I love stories of underdogs. I actually think we all do, because it's fundamental to American culture. We were founded by rebels, and we embody the belief of we're gonna make it on our own, no matter how hard it is or what it takes. We believe, as a people, that hard work can overcome just about anything. I like to think sometimes what it would have felt like to be Caesar standing before the Rubicon, or Hannibal facing the Alps. I picture strong, confident men filled with hubris and might, commanding enormous armies filled with men loyal to their cause and their cult of personality. But I know how their stories ended. They, in that moment, did not. Abraham Lincoln might never have been president. He had lost 8 elections prior and was a fairly terrible politician. George Washington could have just as easily been hanged for treason, and Rosa Parks might have decided that she should have sat where she was supposed to. It's easy to look at historical figures and think how courageous they must have been, how sure of themselves they were to take the actions they did. They weren't. Just like you or I would have been, they were scared, afraid they would fail. Dr. Seuss started life as Theodore Seuss Geisel. Seuss was his mother's maiden name. His first book, Mulberry Street, was rejected 27 times. I feel confident I would have thrown in the towel after about 16, maybe 12. I'm not sure where I would have landed. But after his 27th rejection, the manuscript and illustrations tucked under his arm, he was walking home and ran into a friend from Dartmouth College, Mike McClintock, who happened to have been made editor of children's books that morning at Vanguard. Geisel later said that if he had been walking on the other side of Madison Avenue, he'd be in the dry cleaning business. It may feel as if all your accomplishments can be attributed to luck, and everyone else's to intelligence and hard work. It's just not the case. Every success story is a little bit of both. So if we know that's reality, how can we feel like that in our everyday lives? Well, Dr. Seuss has some hints. Find a mentor. I firmly believe that your mentors should be people outside of work. It's important to remember that humans are motivated by different things, and sometimes conflicts of interest can arise. Your boss, for example, as awesome as they might be, will probably never suggest that you ask for a $20,000 raise, because that's a lot of money out of next year's budget. But someone outside of your work might recognize that you're underpaid and help you formulate a strategy to get where you're supposed to be. I have 3 mentors in tech whom I trust implicitly. Whenever I need encouragement, honest feedback, or career guidance, I call them. They're generous with their time, and they believe in me as a person and as a professional. That sounds great, but how do you go about finding a mentor? My best advice is to be vulnerable, to do the scary thing and ask someone you respect to coffee. Mentorship doesn't have to be a formal arrangement. It can be an organic friendship between 2 professionals. People talk a lot about the importance of networking. But to me, networking conjures this image of a silver-tongued salesman working a room and collecting business cards. That's definitely not my scene I want to run. So let's not call it networking. Let's call it connecting. And that requires vulnerability, the foundation of all genuine relationships. There are jerks in this world. I think we've all discovered them. Being vulnerable is risky. Everyone in this room has had their heart broken. We've been hurt, exposed, rejected. That's why we build walls, to protect ourselves. But there are an extraordinary amount of wonderful human beings in this world. Many of them are sat right here in this room. Those are the people I'm asking you to be vulnerable for. Those people are good and kind and trustworthy, and they deserve to know you, the real you. Nobody is better at being you than you. Seriously, your authentic self is 1,000 times better than you trying to be someone else. If you spend your time thinking you need to be different, you are cheating yourself and the world of something amazing. You. Stay curious. If you haven't read Mindset by Carol Dweck, I really cannot recommend it enough. It is a truly life-changing book that focuses on growth mindset and enthusiastically learning new things without a fear of being bad at it. It rejects the notion that we are limited to our God-given talents and instead embraces learning new skills, even if we're initially fairly terrible at something. I think a great way to exercise this concept is to constantly try new things. Take lessons in random subjects. I have a friend who takes improv, another in salsa, another getting his pilot's license. And a few years ago, I decided to get my motorcycle license. Much to the chagrin of my mother, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. So I showed up to the building, I opened the door to the classroom, and there were a classroom filled with 18-year-old adrenaline junkies who already own motorcycles, by the way, so laws are not working, and 2 recently retired gentlemen. Needless to say, I didn't fit in at all. But guess what? I had a blast. It didn't matter that I looked like an idiot, and let's be clear, I definitely looked like an idiot. I had fun, and I learned something new. You all are here, which means you care about learning and growing. Never let that be extinguished. If learning fuels you, make it a priority. And that includes negotiating an educational stipend. When you start a new job, ask what the budget is for conferences and continuing education. It blows my mind how many of our colleagues have to beg for a $250 ticket to a local tech conference when sales and marketing regularly spend thousands on booze. Developers must adapt to changing technology, and that means constantly learning and absorbing new information. Your job is not to pump out 40 hours worth of code every week. Your job is to be a subject matter expert, and continuing education is a huge factor in your success in that role. Take small risks. If you want to learn a new technology or implement a change at work, do it. Just do it, seriously. Better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission sometimes. Create a proof of concept and then advocate for it. Persuade those around you. Don't be afraid to fail. Everyone in this room has or will bring down production at some point. And I think that's awesome. Your boss, after they recover from their aneurysm, might as well. But it means that you are trying. You are doing something. Keep doing that. And when you do fail, publicize it. This is a weird one, I know. But sharing when you screw up is especially important for the seniors and principal engineers in this room. It's the best thing you could do for your team. When people I respect tell me that they make mistakes, it sends the signal that I can take risks and potentially fall flat on my face, and that's okay. You'll be amazed at the response. You'll see your team share lessons learned and become more collaborative. A culture of being right all the time is toxic. Collaboration will nosedive, silos will develop, and people will begin to cover their tracks when something goes wrong. Celebrate your successes. I have a yay me file. It's kind of silly. But anytime someone sends me a nice note or tells my boss I did a good job at something, I file it away in my yay me file. And when I have a really bad day, I can go look and realize that it's just a bad day. I've had good ones as well. The alternative to this is keeping a gratitude journal. And before you scoff at the concept of a diary on your nightstand, hear me out. Taking the last 5 minutes of your day to jot down 3 things you're grateful for is a surprisingly helpful practice. Remember negativity bias? We focus on the negative by our nature. So reminding yourself of everything going right in your life right now is great for your mental health. Keep going. I am a fan of running toward the open door until the moment it closes. Perhaps you want to launch a business in the next year, or move to a different city, or just found out you're expecting a child. The natural inclination is to start planning, to think a year in advance, and to have that plan dictate your everyday behavior at work. Don't. There is no reason to treat the next year as biding time. Just keep going and figure everything else out later. Avoid planning in detail so far in advance. It will only cause you to slow down and not take the opportunities that you normally would. Anything could happen. Plans fall through. Just keep going. But pace yourself. Burnout is real, folks. I've been in this industry just a few years, and I can already feel the reaper coming for me. If you're ambitious, one of the hardest things to realize is that careers are marathons, not sprints. Embrace work-life balance. Make it a priority. I went through touring when my daughter was 6 months old, which was insane. But it meant my schedule was pretty intense. I got up, I got her to her nanny, I went to school. I stayed there till 4, I ran home, I got her dinner, into bed, and I did homework from 6 to 9 before going to bed myself, more like collapsing. And that was my life for 7 months. It wasn't easy. There were a lot of tears and a lot of wine. My trash clanked on the way out the door. But my daughter was critical to my success in school She gave me balance, demanded I stop, take a break, play, read books. She gave me a break from coding, and school gave me a reprieve from being a mom. Don't answer emails after dinner. Don't pick up your phone first thing in the morning. I know, it's hard. I do it too. And don't work on the weekends if you can absolutely avoid it. Play is not just a different kind of work. Find what you love and embrace it with a childlike joy. Eat great food, spend time with your family. Pick up that hobby you've been thinking about for the last few years. We get one life, and each of us deserves to enjoy every moment we can from it. It's golden rule time. I'm amazed at how small of a world it is, and people truly matter. They're really all that matters. I believe we get what we give. You cannot control other people's behavior, but you can absolutely control your own. Empathy is a powerful tool. Use it. You have no idea what the person next to you is going through. You're not a snowflake. Neither am I. Who's left a crappy job and thought, you won't last 2 weeks without me? Yeah. Only to watch them just keep chugging along. The future of the planet doesn't rest on your shoulders, nor mine. And think about what a relief that is. I feel less stressed just thinking about it. We're humans. We're fallible. And here's the cool thing. The more human you are, the more vulnerability you show, the more people will grow to trust you. None of this is to say that you can't make an impact. Quite the opposite. You will leave your footprint on this world, whether it's with the people you love most, your community, or the globe. But you can let go of the fact that you are critical to everything. People will pick up the slack if you let them. Hold on to your childhood friends. The people you know from when you were young are the most honest friends you have. They don't expect anything from you. They don't see you as special or important. To them, you're still the scrawny kid with glasses who is terrible at kickball, at least for me. And they love you anyway. They'll kick your ass when you need a dose of reality. And those same friends will sit beside you in silence during some of the worst moments of your life. They're not perfect. None of us are. But they are worth more than gold. Make sure you tell them that. Create a small group of trusted peers. I have 2 groups like this. One is for shooting the shit with people I like, and another is more focused on goal accountability. The former is a small group of wicked smart, ambitious female developers. They are strong, resilient, and full of grit, which means they inspire me, and they lift me up when I need it. The latter is called Wine and Goals, because we literally drink wine and discuss goals. No one said we were creative. Once a month, 7 to 8 of us from different industries and career paths get together. We discuss the highs and lows from the previous month and set goals for the next one. And then we're randomly assigned an accountability partner who periodically checks in with us throughout the month. It's a small, friendly kick in the ass. Some days are going to suck. Nothing will go right. You'll get decaf coffee in the morning and a fork with your oatmeal. That has literally happened to me. It'll take you 3 hours to debug an issue that really should have only taken you 2 hours and 59 minutes because you reversed a Boolean. That has also happened to me. You'll get into a fight with a loved one and hit every single red light on the way home. Want to know what I do on those days? I break out a bottle of wine. Yes, by this point you figure out I drink a lot of wine. I run a bath, and I watch my favorite trashy TV show, Real Housewives. What I don't do is start evaluating my life choices. Bad days happen. Let them pass by. Look forward to the morning. Start again. Stop comparing yourself to others. This is hard. I think we all fall into this trap. But one of the most detrimental things you can do is compare your bloopers to someone else's highlight reel. I'm a great example of this, right? I'm up here and I know every single time I said or so or missed a bullet point or got off track. But it's not nearly as obvious to you, I hope. Remember imposter syndrome? It would be very easy to look at me and the other speakers up on this stage and say that we're more of experts than you. We're not, I promise. You know things that we don't, and everyone in this room has something to contribute. Focus on what you can give. Forget what the person next to you is doing. Life is short, but it's also kind of long. Some of the decisions you make will matter a lot. Many others won't matter at all. Live your life. Enjoy every moment you can of it. Friends who make you feel bad about yourself aren't friends at all. Cut them. Surround yourself with people who inspire you and challenge you and love you. Play and laugh. Show humility. Never stop learning. Be kind. And remember, you have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own. And you know what you know. And you are the guy or gal who'll decide where to go. Thank you.